Assaf, Assistant Professor of Theatre at the Fine Art and Art History Department, and the Director of tonight's staged reading of After Darwin by Timberlake Wertenbaker. Tonight's staged reading is presented by the Theatre Initiative at AUB, which is an interdisciplinary group of faculty, students, and artists who aim to place theatrical performance and study at the center of intellectual life at AUB. The Theatre Initiative was co-established as a collaboration between the English Department and the Department of Fine Arts and Art History. It is co-directed by Robert Myers, playwright and professor of English, and myself. Tonight's play reading is the opening event of the international conference titled Darwin AUB and the Arab World, organized by Robert Myers and Arne Dietrich from the psychology department, and opening tomorrow morning at AUB in celebration of AUB's 150th anniversary. The conference and tonight's reading were only possible thanks to the support of the Office of the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, the Office of the Provost, Converging Creativities, Science and the Arts and Humanities in Dialogue at AUB, the Center of Arts and Humanities, or CASAR, the Prince Alwaleed bin Talal bin Abdel Aziz Alsaud Center for American Studies and Research, CASAR. Allow me to also extend a warm and special welcome to the international speakers at the conference, Dr. Betty Anderson, and Dr. Salman Hamid, Dr. Marsha Inhorn, and Tariq Al-Duwairi from Egypt, stage director. So, After Darwin, by British playwright, screenplay writer, and translator Timberlake Wertenbaker, is a play within a play. The play being rehearsed is set between 1831 and 1865 and revolves around the clash between Charles Darwin and the captain of the Beagle, Robert Fitzroy, who allowed Darwin to join him on his expedition, the trip that would provide Darwin with the basis for his book on the origin of species. Eventually, the actors Tom, playing Darwin, and Ian, playing Fitzroy, step out of their roles and are joined by Millie, the director, and Lawrence, the playwright. After Darwin was first performed in 1998 at the Hampstead Theatre in London. Allow me to introduce our actors for tonight's reading. So, Robert Myers will read the role of Ian, and Ian, the actor in the play, who's playing Fitzroy. Nadia Hassan is reading the director, Millie. Rami Saidi is reading for Tom, the actor who's playing Darwin. And Jonathan Murha is reading for the playwright, Lawrence. Please come in. Thank you. So the actors and I are happy to stay and host a talkback session after the reading for those who are interested to stay and explore the play further, or if you have questions about the conference opening tomorrow or the Theatre Initiative. With that, I would like to ask you to please turn off or silence your cell phones. Sit back and enjoy the reading. It runs for 1 hour, 50 minutes with no interruption. So take a moment, please, to turn off your cell phones, and we're going to start. After Darwin by Timberlake Wertenbaker. Act 1, Scene 1. Despair. 30 April 1865, 7 a.m. A room that is elegant and spare. On a large table, a washing bowl, a cutthroat razor. Robert Fitzroy wears full navy uniform minus the jacket which hangs. Charles Darwin, in rumpled clothes, sits on a chair to the side. Fitzroy holds a Bible in his hand and brandishes it.
This is the truth. Woe unto thee, blind guide, natural selection. We cannot survive without the book. You want a grim future without purpose, mockery of all that is sacred, no moral light? It had been better for that man if he had not been born. I harbored you in my cabin. I, Fitzroy of the Beagle, have brought destruction on the world. Woe unto that man by whom the offense cometh. That nose, that nose. Why did I tear up the letter? I only ever wanted to do what was right. I understood it. It was my inheritance. But perhaps there is no right, no good. Forgive me, God, for what I have done, for what I am about to do. If you are there.
He brandishes the razor at Darwin, who doesn't react.
You were the mediocrity. I had the destiny. You scrambled my destiny and the world. Perhaps God never looked. The fittest, so-called, grimacing their success, thousands like you in this world sodden with vulgarity. No more like me. They laugh at me. No more now. I leave nothing behind. But you never saw the pain of extinction.
He draws the razor up to his throat to slit it. Scene 2. Hope. 4 September 1831. The Beagle. Captain Robert Fitzroy in full Navy uniform. Dazzling. Charles Darwin in rumpled traveling clothes. The presence of wealth and elegance, very spare and neat. Chronometers.
Tenerife, the Cape de Verde Islands, Rio de Janeiro, the Straits of Magellan, the Falkland Islands, the Galapagos Islands. Do these names mean anything to you, Mr. Darwin?
I've read about Tenerife, Captain Fitzroy. I've dreamt of Rio.
We do not know the exact longitude of Rio. If the Beagle can chart these waters and coast accurately, she will change the history of the world. I have 22 chronometers on board.
22?
The Admiralty provided 4. I bought the rest. No more shipwrecks. Think of the lives saved.
Yes.
And then the souls. In Tierra del Fuego, I encountered the most miserable and savage creatures. I captured 4 and had them educated in England.
Indeed, Captain Fitzroy. I heard of York Minster, Jemmy Button, and Fuega...
Basket. The 4th boat memory died of the smallpox. I'm particularly pleased with Jimmy Button, who seems naturally disposed to civilization. I'm bringing all 3 back with a young missionary who will establish a settlement on that wild coast. I have an artist on board to record the flora, fauna, most remarkable in these parts.
Yes.
There lacks only a gentleman savant.
Yes.
To pursue researches in natural history, collecting, observing, noting, a companion as well. The coast of South America, it's bleak. The previous captain of the Beagle shot himself. You heard?
No, I deeply regret.
When I took command of the ship, the crew were near mutiny. Mr. Darwin, I regret I was not able to get a message to you in time, but the post of naturalist on the Beagle has already been filled.
Oh no.
I have only now written the letter confirming my decision. I hope you're not too disappointed.
Bitterly. Forgive me, Captain, if it is too late. I must now. I won't take any more of your time.
I was not under the impression you were so keen.
I came as soon as I could. My father opposed the idea. I could do nothing without his approval.
He fears for your safety?
He thinks I'm wayward.
So?
But Uncle Joe's, that's my uncle Josiah Wedgwood, thought it would be a capital thing to do and convinced my father. My father wants me to take the holy orders, but the pursuit of natural history is very suitable to a clergyman, and it would only be a delay. We answered all of his objections, and my father agreed.
Your father is an excellent doctor. He once treated an aunt of mine, and she lived until she was 95.
He is most shrewd, yes. That is, he used to take me on his rounds. He wanted me to follow him into medicine.
And you did not feel compelled to obey his wishes?
I hate the sight of blood.
I could not have guaranteed your safety in South America, Mr. Darwin.
It's not my own blood I'm afraid of spilling, Captain Fitzroy. It's dissection. I shoot accurately, I assure you. I'm not a very good at taxidermy, though. And the lectures were so tedious. My father fears no application.
You have eminent friends at Cambridge.
I'm frightfully clever at catching beetles, Captain. Perhaps it's just as well for the Cleopatra of South America I'm not coming.
Professor John Henslow, his father was the master of the Royal Dockyards at Chatham.
He's taught me everything I know about botany.
Adam Sedgwick, they say his geology lectures are always full. What made you wish to come?
Alexander von Humboldt.
You've read it.
Everything. You too?
At Naval College. From my earliest youth, I felt an ardent desire to travel into distant regions seldom visited by Europeans. So did I.
It was Humboldt's description of Tenerife that first made me want.
Yes, climbing that volcano.
And then the Orinoco.
I lived on that canoe. We shall be far south of Humboldt's Venezuela, but there are great rivers in Brazil, Mr. Darwin. And do you admire Jane Austen?
I have not read her, yet.
I have all of her books on board.
I did read Coldstream and Fogo when I heard I might come on this voyage. I studied astronomy. I believe I can now follow calculations for longitude and latitude. I even plunged into fearful descriptions of storms at sea.
I have fitted the Beagle with a lightning conductor, making her the safest vessel in the Navy. The perils of ship life are more internal, Mr. Darwin. Bad temper in the sailors, melancholy in ourselves. The soul of a man may seem to die. You seem to have a cheerful temperament. It must make you a pleasant companion. Your family are Whigs, are they not?
Especially the Wedgwoods.
The Fitzroys have always been Tories. We are opposing your reforms, Mr. Darwin, this dangerous tide of liberalism.
I find beetles and rocks occupy my thoughts. I'm singularly ignorant of politics.
That is because you are still young. One grows fast in the Navy. I went to sea at 14.
I lost my mother when I was 7, and was perhaps spoiled by my sisters. I kept running away from school to be back with them.
My mother died when I was 5. I did invite a friend of mine on board, Mr. Darwin. I want a companion, as much as a man of science, you understand. But he refused this morning. This letter is to another friend, a Tory, but he hasn't read Humboldt.
He tears up the letter.
I shall write to the Admiralty and ask them to agree to your joining the Beagle.
Captain, I am overcome. Gloria and excelsis, beetles of South America, here I come. Forgive me.
Oh, you may find your spirits constrained by the lack of space, but I shall do all in my power to make you comfortable. Come to the ship tomorrow. You'll need a good pair of pistols. I shall help you choose them. Books, although you'll find my library extensive, I'll give you a list of clothes.
I shall follow your guidance in all matters. I have never been at sea before.
Fitzroy stiffens and studies Darwin for a moment.
Mr. Darwin, forgive me for the apparent impertinence of my question, but does your father have your nose?
I believe he does. Mine is somewhat smaller.
According to the laws of physiognomy, it indicates a certain weakness of temperament. Nothing I hear about your father confirms this.
No, my father is not weak. I've always hated my nose.
No matter. I have great faith in your friends, and I myself am no mean judge of character. I shall be delighted to have you on the Beagle, and you shall help me fulfill another purpose. William Buckland, as you know, has found conclusive evidence of the flood in England.
Not quite conclusive.
We could establish such a proof in South America. Your mentor, Henslow, is a deeply religious man, I understand.
Deeply.
Do we not live in a great age? Our natural philosophers trace God's signature on earth as our English ships mark the contours of the world. I shall prevent shipwrecks by mapping the coast. But together, Mr. Darwin, we shall prevent spiritual shipwreck by mapping God's work.
I shall do all I can to be of help, Captain Fitzroy.
Scene 3, emotion, the present. Tom, the actor playing Darwin, and Ian, the actor playing Fitzroy. Millie comes on. She has been watching.
Embrace!
Nobody moves.
Embrace! tight. You are both so happy, so full of hope and love for each other, you embrace.
Englishmen don't embrace, Millie, particularly not these Englishmen.
I don't mean homosexual, I mean emotion.
Emotion.
This great, this beautiful emotion of friendship. It's so obvious you embrace, isn't it, Tom?
It's just that, you see, they may have trouble expressing, English, all that. Maybe we could just move towards each other.
Charles Darwin is young, enthusiastic. Surely you want to embrace your boy, the Oliver Captain.
Whatever.
I've read everything there is about Fitzroy, which isn't much, I admit, but I can assure you he would not embrace or be embraced. He would never show what he feels.
Ian, you are creating him.
He's an historical character. I'm finding him.
You say yourself he is unknown. He will evolve into what we make him here.
Well, why make him a fool? The phrenology business is bad enough. Can't we get rid of it?
It's a famous anecdote.
I don't like it.
You don't like anything.
Ian likes the lines, Millie. He gets so angry when I get them wrong.
I see emotions in these lines.
You interpret.
I see two men who embrace.
Maybe in Bulgaria.
In Bulgaria, they would take a knife to their arms and mingle their blood. And they would not be young men on an exciting voyage around the world. They would be fighting in caves and forests against the Turks. So there would be fear and also anger against the oppressor. And perhaps both would be tortured, mangled, dead.
And now that you've once again shamed us with the excitement of your history, you expect us to do as you want?
It's not my history anymore. This is my history.
Then you should learn to understand repression. It may not be as romantic as oppression, but it works.
Oh, I do not want some gloomy English Chekhov here, Ian. I want light and tenderness. It is thought tenderness gave mammals an evolutionary advantage.
It did. I have tenderness, I think.
It is 1831. I am a captain in His Majesty's Navy. I am an aristocrat, and I am English. I'm not playing an evolving mammal.
Fitzroy is religious. He knows tenderness.
Not in the Church of England.
I do not see how we go on.
She throws herself down at Ian's feet.
I beg you, I entreat you, I supplicate, I fall on my knees before you to express emotion.
This is no way to direct.
It is in Moscow.
I like this tenderness thing. Ian, we can try a little tenderness, can't we? We repressed even, yeah?
Scene 4, Tenderness. January 1832, the Bay of Biscay, Fitzroy's cabin. A storm, the ship rolls. Darwin stands, sways, very seasick. Fitzroy arranges a hammock.
Try this, Darwin. It may help.
Darwin tries to get into the hammock. He has trouble. Fitzroy holds it for him. Darwin reels.
You must believe me when I say this is the worst storm I have encountered in the Bay of Biscay.
I fear I shall prove useless on this voyage.
We have not been at sea very long.
I was sick as soon as we left the channel. Even the Fuegans laugh at me. Have you seen Jemmy Button mimicking my seasickness?
He doesn't mean it unkindly. They're better mimics than our London actors.
Darwin holds down a wretch.
Perhaps if you lay down on the divan.
Fitzroy gently leads Darwin to the divan. Darwin collapses.
This is intolerable.
Lieutenant Wickham tells me you are considering leaving the Beagle.
I cannot be much of a companion in this state, Captain. I might stay in Tenerife and then find a ship to take me home.
I heard Portsmouth there is a quarantine in Tenerife. We may have to remain aboard.
I so hope to see it.
I am sorry to disappoint you, Darwin, but you will find much to see in the Cape de Verde Islands. My officers would be sorry to see their dear philosopher go. You have made yourself well liked. I should be sorry, too. Very sorry.
Darwin wrestles with a bout of seasickness. Fitzroy gently adjusts a pillow.
Let me read you the next chapter of Persuasion.
Scene 5, Friendship. Tom and Ian, as before, but very relaxed.
I really admire you. I saw you a few years ago. Yeah, I thought, I hope I'm not letting you down.
Not at all.
It's a lot of lines.
Okay.
I remember them, I just don't know what they mean, and then words, they shift about.
That's the pleasure.
In a film, you're there forever, fixed.
And people eat popcorn while they watch.
I went to read for this film.
When?
I know I'm not supposed to, they're looking for Germans. I mean English with German accents. Real Germans are too expensive or too real or something. What do you think?
About Germans?
Would you do a film?
I'm not asked. Listen, we have a lot of words coming up.
Yeah, sure, words. Will you help me? You know, hints?
Concentrate.
Concentrate.
You don't really need my help.
I know, but I like it.
Scene 6. Doubt. Darwin and Fitzroy, a month later off the coast of South America. It is hot. Darwin reads with enthusiasm.
The next morning, we saw the sun rise behind the outline of the Grand Canary Island and suddenly illumine the peak of Tenerife, whilst the lower parts were veiled in fleecy clouds.
Fleecy?
On the 16th of January, we anchored at Porto Praya.
You've gone from Devonport to the Cape de Verde Islands in one paragraph?
I was rather seasick.
Go on.
February 29th. The day has passed delightfully. Delight itself, however, is a weak term to express the feelings.
Feelings?
Feelings of a naturalist who for the first time has wandered by himself in a Brazilian forest. The elegance of the grasses.
Elegance. Is that a size?
The novelty of parasitical plants, the beauty of the flowers.
Vague, Darwin, vague.
The glossy green of the foliage, a most paradoxical mixture of sound and silence pervades the shady parts of the wood.
Which is it?
I explained the noise from the insects is loud, but there is a deep silence in the forest. To a person fond of natural history, such a day as this brings with it a deeper pleasure than he can ever hope to experience again.
Such enthusiasm. So few facts. Of course, you don't have to publish it.
No.
And so much of your personality. Think of Humboldt, those scientific descriptions.
It was his enthusiasm that infected me. I believe it did you.
Each night, Darwin, I sit here for hours and write out everything I have observed and done during the day. I had better give you my own description of our departure.
He reads fast but with pride.
Vessels in the offing and distant land looming much, a few mottled hard-edged clouds appearing in the east, streaks, mare's tails across the sky, spreading from the same quarter. A high barometer, 30.3, and the smoke of chimneys rising high into the air and going westwards were the signs which assured us of a favorable wind. I've taken a whole chapter to discuss the purpose of the voyage, the Fuegians, and my civilizing mission. The refitting of the ship, I explained we are 74 on board. Even you are mentioned by name, Darwin, and it is not until the end of the 3rd chapter that I reach the Cape de Verde Islands, having discussed the possible causes of the high waves in the Atlantic, how to foresee a squall, problems of determining longitude. Nothing is omitted from my account of the voyage of the Beagle. I know how interested people will be in reading it. Observe, and note down, observe again, never trust memory. I suggest you tear up your account starting in.
Darwin folds up his papers and puts them in his pocket. A pause.
Perhaps I expect too much of people.
You do not spare yourself.
Strive for perfection, and so mirror God.
God taught forgiveness.
You still reproach me for the floggings.
35 lashes for little drunkenness the day after Christmas.
I go on at great length about the necessity of flogging in these chapters.
I shall read them with interest.
Are you doubting me?
Darwin doesn't answer.
From the ship's crew, I expect only obedience. But I would wish for you to understand me. When we round Cape Horn, we will face storms, winds, rocks, the most dismal and dank surroundings. A captain who cannot assert discipline betrays his men. Goes mad himself, mad. The word discipline means little to you.
I've encountered so little of it in nature.
Darwin, we sail into Rio tomorrow, and I shall make sure we arrive at dawn, as I did the first time I saw it. It is the most beautiful harbor in the world, and will lift our spirits. And you can take time away from the ship to explore the interior.
Thank you, Captain Fitzroy.
You see, I am not without sensibility, but there is so much at stake.
You work yourself very hard.
Too hard? Who is saying that? Wickham? Sullivan? They call me Black Coffee, don't they? When the dark mood descends.
Your lieutenants are devoted to you, Captain Fitzroy. I've only observed.
Scene 7, camouflage. Tom and Ian pacing around each other.
No. In his autobiography, he describes himself as a simpleton who only accidentally stumbled on one of those theories that changed the world. He was a good and faithful husband, adored by his children, a sound friend, brother. Haven't you read anything?
Millie bought me some books. I looked at the pictures. All I'm saying is he's not nice. Nobody can be nice and that famous. You're nice, but you're not famous. I mean, you're in Who's Who, but you're not a film star.
You're playing a superstar of history, Mr. Millennium Man himself. You ought to work harder. He did.
You want to play him.
Everybody loves the winner, especially if he's decent.
Darwin wasn't nice just now, and he's horrible to Fitzroy later.
Something happened on that ship. Darwin seemed to need to obliterate Fitzroy's memory.
You see, not nice. It's the struggle, whatchamacallit, for Darwin to go up. Fitzroy has to be pulverized.
He makes a grinding sound.
You can be honorable and survive.
Yeah? Before I became an actor, I thought of being a soldier. You know why?
It requires even less intellectual effort.
Because I love the idea of camouflage. It's a great survival tactic. You even win wars that way. Listen, it goes this way. There's this great idea, the struggle for survival.
Existence. Get that right.
Yeah, whatever. How was this idea going to survive in a world of Fitzroy's? You use camouflage. Maybe even the idea uses camouflage. Uses Darwin, the nice, but not so nice. You see, in fact, ruthless.
Don't tell Millie that. She's in love with him. And with you.
That's because I'm nice to her. Fitzroy never learned.
I can't stand all that emotion.
Emotion's very fashionable now.
Real passion comes from ideas.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. Because I'm in a muddle with this guy. He's like one of his fossils in the next scene. Put the bits this way and you get a giant snake. That way, a furry mammoth. You're supposed to help me. You're so experienced, so nice.
I told you, read the books.
Why should I believe the books?
It's called history.
Yeah, but history's shifty too. I mean, isn't it supposed to be rewritten all the time? Things happen that we were told never happened, like those Yugoslavs who helped us in the war, you know? The partisans, those English politicians, sent back to be killed. It's in the film script. And then there's some things that maybe didn't happen, like the Holocaust.
Don't-
To cease, Tom, quick and violent.
Don't you ever say that, ever!
Okay, sorry, don't get so emotional.
Even your stupidity doesn't excuse a statement like that.
I'm only repeating what I hear. I don't care one way or the other.
He begins to lug bags into the middle of the cabin.
Don't you?
I wasn't there, were you?
We all carry luggage.
Not me. I live in the present. I travel light.
Scene 8, change. Montevideo, Fitzroy's cabin. Darwin lugs some dusty bags. He is himself dusty, disheveled. The cabin is filled with dust. Fitzroy sits very still, very dark.
I rode with the gauchos. They are so tall, handsome, proud, dissolute, long hair, black mustaches, clicking spurs and knives. So polite.
He imitates a Spanish accent rather badly.
Si, Senor Darwin. But offend their dignity and
He imitates the slitting of the throat.
I watched them catch their cattle with the lasso, like
He
this.
twirls an imaginary lasso.
I tried it myself, but I tangled my own horse's legs and we both fell. How they laughed. Said they'd never seen a man capture his own self. There was I and this horse, both wrapped up in the lasso like a naturalist parcel.
He demonstrates. Fitzroy offers a wintry smile.
We climbed the Sierra de las Animas. I found 80 different sort of birds. I'll show you. All kinds of reptiles. Even a 98-pound water hog. The buck I shot had the worst smell I had ever encountered. I used my handkerchief on him. I think I can still smell it.
So can I.
We came to a salt lake of black mud. Fetid. Ugh. I brought some mud back for you, but I dropped the bottle. I'm sorry.
There seems to be some mud still stuck on your shirt.
There were hundreds of flamingos, the life, Fitzroy. On this seemingly grim and barren landscape, the flamingos feed on worms. The worms on Infusoria or Converging. All the life is totally adapted to this lake of brine. Isn't it wonderful?
God's infinite providence.
Here's the best.
He takes out some large and dusty fossilized bones with great care.
I have many more coming. Wickham will be so cross with me he can't find any more room on the ship.
Fitzroy raises his eyebrows at this. Darwin places the bones on the floor as well as some teeth and a skull. It is all very heavy.
Some of these crumble as soon as you touch them. It's maddening.
Quite.
This animal was as large as a rhinoceros. The tooth could have belonged to an elephant. It's the tooth of a herbivore. And look at this neck, like a giraffe's.
He keeps placing and replacing bones, puzzling over the configuration.
These animals are no longer found in South America. What happened?
The door of the ark may not have been large enough to accommodate. May I ask what amuses you so?
Surely, Fitzroy, aren't you reading Lyell's second volume?
I run a ship!
Surely you agree with him that you can't explain all you find on high mountains by catastrophic flood, but rather by a very slow, why, you said yourself.
I hadn't considered the consequences of such a statement, and Lyle fudges.
He proposes.
Waffle! Something must be one thing or another. There was a flood. The Bible tells us so.
A short silence. Darwin goes to another sack and brings out a dead mole-like creature.
They call it the tuco because of the sound it makes.
It makes the sound, tuku-tuku.
They're very friendly.
He brings out a dead starling.
A kind of starling. They stand on the backs of cows and horses. Listen.
He imitates a bird sound with a bubbly hiss.
It seems they deposit their eggs in other nests like our cuckoos. Now listen to this.
He emits a high-pitched sound like a peewit.
Just like a peewit, isn't it? Now,
He imitates a pack of dogs barking, brings out another bird.
nothing like it in England. Sounds like a pack of dogs in full chase.
He does the sound again. Intrigued, Fitzroy winces.
Now, where have I put it?
Please stop it!
Fitzroy, are you feeling unwell?
I am perfectly fit!
I was so delighted with my discoveries, I did not think to ask.
That is not unusual.
You have been working very hard.
Yes, Mr. Geographer, while you were gallivanting about the countryside, I have measured, remeasured, and measured again every inch of this coast. Back and forth, back and forth. There will be no error in the charts of these waters.
Isn't that good?
Good, but not good enough. I have to do it again.
Fitzroy.
I don't expect you to understand the quest for perfection.
I am remiss for asking you to take an interest in these fossils.
Please to remember, I was the first to notice bones embedded in the silt off Punta Alta. Had it not been for me, you wouldn't even know of these animals.
He puts his hands to his head.
Fitzroy?
Headaches.
I found the country as hospitable as you described it, Fitzroy, but the Spaniards do not have anything like the sophistication of our English landowners. I also felt most disturbed by their policy of killing all the Indians and sending their children into slavery.
I once questioned a landowner on that very subject. He called in 20 of his slaves and asked them what they thought. To a man, and to a man, they said slavery was a good thing.
What else could they say in front of a man who could put them to death?
Are you questioning my judgment?
I'm surprised you believed that.
But then your grandfather campaigned against slavery. I had forgotten.
What's wrong with that?
The trouble with meddlers like Wedgwood and other Whigs is that they do not know how other countries work. I do not say we should have slavery in England, but here...
If something is unjust and inhumane, surely it is so everywhere.
It is a subject you do not understand.
I have traveled and I find slavery abhorrent and degrading.
You seem to take pleasure in contradicting me.
He holds his beat.
Fitzroy, you are not well.
It is the headaches that drove my uncle to suicide. He was never mad. Whatever they said at your dinner tables, yes! The dinner we had at the governor's house, I said everyone was reading Jane Austen. You demurred.
I only meant that there may be some who do not read her.
You contradicted me in public.
But many Englishmen do not know how to read.
Everyone, one knows or cares to know, reads Jane Austen, Mr. Darwin.
That is not everyone.
Again, you will drive me mad. I wanted the company of a gentleman. I find I am messing with a man who does not even know how to tidy himself before entering the cabin of his captain.
I forget. I am sorry.
From now on, Mr. Darwin, I shall have to ask you to mess with the junior officers.
Fitzroy, you are out of sorts. You
will not speak to your captain in this manner. Get out of my cabin and take your disgusting specimens with you.
He kicks the bone. It disintegrates. Scene 9. Fear. Tom, Ian, and Millie.
Perfect! How do you do it? I kiss you.
Tom shrugs and takes out a computer game.
Yes, but bigger, stronger, more passionate, more desperate, more fearful, more dark.
Tom gets very absorbed in his computer game.
Psst. Take your disgusting specimens with you. Symbol of everything he fears.
Are you showing me how to say it?
That bitter reference to Whigs, the Reform Bill, giving all these people the vote. Darwin belongs to those upstarts now ruling England.
I know all that.
The Admiralty is angry with Fitzroy for buying a second ship and makes him sell it again. His world is shrinking. He's out of joint, so fear, that terrible, icy fear when the climate begins to change. A long winter sets in. I've seen it. At first, surprise, then disbelief. Then you attack each other because there's not enough food to go around. Times of betrayal, despair, and the ice advances towards you.
Could you be specific?
Fear, Ian. It's an English word, no? Contemporary? Daily? Why do you repress that too?
Sitting ducks.
When I saw you for this, I saw that fear. I found out you hadn't worked for a long time.
To the Bulgarian secret police?
Yes, we had to learn in Bulgaria to read a teacher's face, to know whether she was teaching us something true or something she'd been told to say. So I can read faces, yes.
The lines are precise. They do not describe a nuclear winter.
But the writer knows social history and the struggle for existence and the world we're in. You're good at something. The climate shrinks your space. You shiver.
Ask the writer to come and tell me on what line he wants me to act the fear of a species facing a cold winter.
He begins to leave.
He's afraid.
Ian leaves.
Zap.
Why don't you ever say anything? What do you believe?
Nothing.
In general, God, dialectical materialism, existentialism?
Please, I'm English.
For yourself even? Recognition, money,
I wouldn't be here.
the environment? That's not too mentally taxing.
I like underground car parks. As a child, I loved to stand behind the cars and breathe in the fumes. Must have been a high.
Are you saying you are cynical, selfish, stupid, immoral, and want only a good life?
I'm tired of everyone trying to enlist me in their ideas. I don't want to be told that this idea is the best idea that ever existed and that I have to fight for it. lose my job for it, even leaflet for it. When I see an idea floating around, about to get stuck on my jacket, I move.
What about culture?
Who?
Here. This. I believe more in this country than you do.
Yeah, that's normal. You're a foreigner. Are you going to stay?
If I can, stay and be part of it. More British than the British.
You speak so well.
I just get the thoughts wrong, but my accent is good.
Don't lose the passion in your vowels.
They may tell me to go. It depends on this. I have to prove I have something unique to contribute. I'm afraid of the post in the morning. The letter telling me to go home. I have no home.
I'll marry you if you want.
I thought you were...
I am, but I can still marry you if it helps.
What would you...
Get out of it. I don't believe in profit either.
But why?
There doesn't always have to be a why. When I go out at night sometimes, I take a tube into the center, sometimes I walk in the woods. I don't know who I'm going to meet, whether I'll come back alone or with someone, whether it'll be good or not. I could meet the love of my life, or yeah, maybe death. If I marry you, maybe you'll give me lots of jobs. Everybody wants to work with Eastern European directors. Maybe they won't next year. The offer's open anyway.
Millie kisses Tom gently on the forehead.
You know, in Eastern Europe we are very homophobic.
I've noticed.
I've shown it.
You've shown fear.
A woman's territory is already so insecure.
I love women.
Really?
No, not really. But I do like your vowels.
I can't pass for British until I get rid of them.
What a sacrifice.
Not for survival.
Survival.
Survival. I still can't believe in generosity without idealism.
That's because you're homophobic. How do you think we survive?
Scene 10. Idealism. 1832. Tierra del Fuego. Off the Straits of Magellan. Rain, gray, very cold. Several boxes are stacked in Fitzroy's cabin, making it even smaller. Fitzroy and Darwin, cold, having been stuck at sea for a month, drink tea in irritated silence. Every slurp and swallow is self-conscious and intensely heard by the other. Darwin, seasick as usual, swallows frequently to the annoyance of Fitzroy. Fitzroy takes ages to put his cup down after a drink, meticulously, silently. Darwin watches, mesmerized. Fitzroy slightly prissy gestures. Darwin's cup tends to crash a little. Fitzroy winces when that happens, as when Darwin clears his throat. At last, tea is over. Fitzroy moves a tray carefully and looks at the skylight.
We have another hour of light.
Darwin looks up, despondent.
Will the sun never shine?
Darwin takes out some papers and spreads them. Fitzroy moves them slightly back. Darwin doesn't notice and pushes them out again.
In his logbook, Captain Stokes described Tierra del Fuego as the dreariest landscape on earth, utterly desolate, where the soul dies. He had encountered the sorts of winds we've had. Couldn't move for months. Eventually, he locked himself in his cabin and shot himself. He made rather a mess of it, and it took him days to die. When I took over the Beagle, the crew kept seeing his ghost. Sometimes I think I see his shadow. Just there, to your right.
He stares and moves towards the area indicated, then stops himself.
But I have a very cheerful task at hand. The good ladies of the Walthamstow Missionary Society entrusted these boxes to my special care.
Darwin looks briefly and goes back to his papers.
We'll soon deposit our young missionary and the Fuegians. There are some beautiful glaciers in the channel, by the way.
He puts a box on the table, begins to unwrap it.
I'll make a note of all the items given, and the Fuegians will learn to write their own thank you notes in good time.
I never thought to see men and women in such an abject state.
They are human beings.
I feel closer to these beetles.
They will be educated.
The nakedness, filth, ugliness, shouting, constant begging. Yamashuna, is it true that when their women become old, they eat them?
Only in times of famine. I asked Jimmy Button why they didn't eat their dogs instead, and he told me it was because the dogs catch otters, but the women can no longer help feed the tribe.
And you plan to educate them?
Not one of God's creatures is beyond salvation. Try to be a little more charitable, Darwin.
They repel me.
Darwin goes back to his papers. Fitzroy unwraps some silver-plated cutlery. He counts.
36 forks, 36 spoons, 36 fish knives.
Surely, Fitzroy.
Fitzroy continues doggedly, writing down.
4 serving spoons,
He unwraps an elegant soup tureen.
Wedgwood,
He now unwraps several immaculate white embroidered anti-macassars.
Anti-macassars.
what up?
Fitzroy, they've never even seen a blanket.
Why should a Fuegian not sit one day, his hair cut, washed smooth with macassar oil, in a huge armchair reading a paper, and then his wife shall want anti-macassars? Not immediately, perhaps. Agriculture must be established, basic building skills, weaving. Matthews will hold some of these back, but look how quickly Jimmy Button has learned civilized manners. My greatest ambition is to be remembered as someone who benefited mankind. Is it not yours?
I would not be in Matthew's place for the world.
He trusts in God.
God help him.
God will.
He continues to unpack.
10 baby bonnets.
He now begins to unwrap another large object.
What can this be? A chamber pot.
Scene 11, Identity. Tom, Ian, Millie, and Lawrence, the playwright, who is well dressed in a casual American way.
So, in November 1832, Fitzroy landed his 3 Canadians with the missionary Matthews at Ponsonby Sound. Jimmy Button recognized his tribe, but could no longer speak his own language. His mother and his brothers refused to acknowledge him. The sailors erected tents and planted a vegetable garden before leaving. Fitzroy went back 10 days later to find the goods stolen, the vegetable garden trampled, and Matthews' life threatened. Matthews was re-embarked, but Jimmy Button was left to fulfill Fitzroy's vision of a civilized tribe. When Fitzroy returned to Ponsonby Sound a year later, a lone naked savage with mated hair and painted face emerged from the mist in the dugout canoe. With difficulty, pain, Fitzroy recognized Jimmy Button. Jimmy, embarrassed by his nakedness, refused to answer Fitzroy's questions until he had been fully clothed. English and good table manners came ultimately back to him. Over dinner with his beloved captain, and he told the sad tale of abject treatment by his tribe and family. And yet, he refused to sail with Fitzroy, insisting this was where he belonged. He undressed, lowered himself into his canoe, and vanished. He had adopted Englishness with total enthusiasm, but had then readopted the customs of his tribe with equal commitment, thus becoming perhaps one of the first people to suffer the stresses of biculturalism, a condition which was the reach of epidemic proportions in the late 20th century. Jimmy Button's own tribe is now extinct.
Poor Jimmy Button, I love him so.
I've always wanted to say something in real theater. It's not the same as a lecture hall.
Why don't you? You have a good voice.
I wanted to when I was at college, but I looked around and I thought, no, it's too crowded here. So I majored in biology and English instead.
I never imagined you'd be like this. I thought you'd be...
What?
Why don't you write yourself a part? Jimmy Button?
It's Fitzroy, I meant to say.
Fitzroy?
Playwrights are the anatomists of a failed character.
Yeah, right.
Not that I presume this is my first time.
Millie said you were afraid to come.
I know how prejudiced you are in this country against Americans. I saw you 10 years ago, Richard II. If someone had told me then I'm a happy man, Sometimes I can't believe this is real.
Yeah, I can't take it too seriously myself.
It's serious, all right. But I'm a teacher as well, a professor. Our students have a year abroad. I make sure I'm tutor as often as possible. Everybody wants to come to England, so I only get here every 2 or 3 years. I love it. Oh, do I love it here.
Why?
Because your pavements burn with history.
They do?
Lawrence, do you want to watch some more? I'm being very brilliant, I think.
A few minutes, then I'm taking my students to the National Portrait Gallery. I teach a course called The Metaphysics of Cultural Genealogy.
Scene 12, Cruelty, September 1835. The Galapagos, Change of Light, Heat, Darwin and Fitzroy, Lawrence and Millie watching.
Dismal heaps of broken lava, hideous lizards with the faces of ancient demons. No wonder sailors couldn't wait to get away.
Los Encantados, the Enchanted Islands. The currents are so strong the islands can vanish overnight and leave you lost in the ocean. I prefer the name Galapagos.
I see we have 6 live ones on board.
They'll keep us in need until Tahiti.
Fitzroy, the governor told me he can recognize which island a tortoise comes from by its markings. You know they can't swim.
I gather you didn't find much else of interest.
A few miserable weeds, finches, mockingbirds. Again, quite remarkable differences between them. I wonder... Fitzroy, I did something thoroughly foolish. I put all my finches in the same bag.
I labeled mine according to each island.
You are the true naturalist.
I'll give them to you. Now, you will forgive me. I have some calculations to do. I fell behind. You will forgive me. Drudgery calls.
Fitzroy waits for Darwin to go. Darwin ignores him.
May I show you something?
Darwin takes out some drawings. Fitzroy takes them.
Finches. Quite well drawn. Mine are more precise.
He hands the drawings back and waits for Darwin to go.
You see how different the beaks are?
Presumably, they eat different foods.
Precisely.
Each one is perfectly adapted to its place in the world according to the wisdom of God.
How far are we from the coast of South America?
500 miles. Now, Darwin,
Don't some of these remind you of birds we saw in South America?
they look like variations, yes.
Extreme variations.
Perhaps. Darwin, I must
Does it
ask...
not occur to you, Fitzroy, that possibly some of these variations might be so extreme as to constitute, shall we say, a species?
It is sometimes hard to tell.
Suppose, only suppose, that these volcanic islands emerged from the sea, as Lyle suggests. Seeds drifted from South America, clung to the lava, providing meager vegetation. Birds followed, settled, dropped more seeds. Suppose that in this strange, brave new world, isolated from the rest of the continent, the islands themselves isolated from each other, suppose there began to emerge birds so different from their forebears, look at the beaks, Fitzroy, that they must, in truth, be called a new species.
New?
New!
Stop, I see where you're going.
I do not see myself. Something is at work, but I do not know what.
The devil is at work. Here, in this cabin.
He brushes something away.
This shadow, Darwin. I know the dark night of the soul. Doubt sweeps in like a treacherous wind and puts out God's light. I sat here for days, you heard, with this gun.
Takes the gun and shows it to Darwin.
Held to my head. I gave up command of the ship. You weren't here.
I didn't know. I was very ill. I would have come back.
Wickham saw me through. But sometimes I feel that if I turn my head up this way, just a little, then all life will jangle into meaninglessness. Darwin, let me keep you from the vision of a tormented world from which God is absent. I'm well now. I have sworn always to keep in sight the divine designer. You too must swear to shut out all the thoughts you have expressed here.
I don't know what my thoughts are. How can I order them?
Let me be their captain. Let me steer us both away from madness.
Fitzroy holds out an arm to turn Darwin. Lawrence stops them.
Something's missing.
It's fine, Lawrence.
How do you excavate the intimate moments of historical characters?
What's the fuss over words? What does it matter whether something's a variation or a species?
New. One word. New species.
You can be short, fat, tall, blonde or brown, short-beaked or long-beaked, but if the species were not created but slowly evolved, then nothing is fixed.
So,
You thrive on disorder, Tom. But these two men have been living in a fixed universe. God, man, England, class. If, as Darwin suspects, it is fluid, unplanned, then it is a world without a designer, without God. Lawrence.
Lawrence looking at the gun.
Do you think that in a play, the gun always has to go up?
I know about evolution, well, sort of, but I pray to God all the time, you know, please God, don't let me catch pneumonia, please make Ian and Lawrence admire me, please make me famous.
When I was in Sofia, I used to go to the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, and in the smoky hues of grey and red, I could cry and find hope again. But I had left my rational mind on the steps outside. We read the Bible as metaphor.
Lawrence still with the gun.
Some believe access to metaphor is an evolutionary tool to stave off the grief of chaos. We need it more and more.
Yeah, right, Lawrence, you're a real help.
I don't believe, I never have, but when I am working like this, I feel what can only be described as a kind of grace.
Yes, yes, it is work, it is work. We will dispel the darkness. We will work. In, I begin to love you.
Lawrence, is it Fitzroy's hereditary madness that's coming over me?
There's a genetic predisposition from the family, a cultural one from Captain Stokes. And the environment is right. If you go for only one of those options, you'll destroy the mystery of being human.
I'm getting a headache.
There's nothing comfortable about evolution.
To suggest the words of the Bible are not literally true and no longer hold the word safe. There is the wreckage, the madness. Fitzroy sees that all sense could crumble in his mind. Have you never felt that? You look outside, it's all a jumble. And you hear, too, a jumble. Words that belong to no language at all. Fitzroy sees, he hears Darwin as Lucifer, defying God, jumbling the creation. And he puts out a hand to hold Darwin back, keep him fixed. Tom, you turn away, stand there enchanted by these islands, their possibilities. This new world that came into being so gradually, so accidentally. And also, you see this already, so cruelly.
I love the cruelty. Very now. Yes, let's have more cruelty.
They stay in position. Millie watches. Lawrence toys with the gun, then hands it to Ian, who aims at Tom. Act 2. Scene 1. Jealousy. Darwin's study, not dissimilar to Fitzroy's cabin in field, but much messier. A desk crammed with papers, a very comfortable rolling leather chair, books and books, jars, skeletons. Millie is still setting some bits up. Ian and Tom say lines quite fast to each other. Millie occasionally listens but keeps changing things on the desk, coming in and out. Ian is intense, Tom quite distracted. Lawrence comes in with a jar of barnacles.
Mr. Darwin's journal is still detained, to the great regret of the scientific world, because it is to form part of a longer work, including an account of the surveys of Captains King and Fitzroy in South America. And I had been led to believe that the scientific world was waiting for an account by the Beagle's captain. I sent Mr. Lyle my chapter on the deluge for his comments. I am still waiting. Presumably cannot answer. Have you read it?
I found the arguments difficult.
I put them succinctly.
I am a naturalist, not a theologian.
Your own mentor, Sedgwick, has repeatedly said that scientific truths are there to reveal God's intentions. I prove the truth of revelation. I even use some of your finds. Indeed, Darwin, I mention you often.
I am flattered.
You seem to have forgotten it was by my invitation you joined the Beagle.
I cannot imagine my life without those 5 years.
My officers were kind to you. They could have been handsomely rewarded if they had collected their own specimens. They made room for you instead.
The specimens are even more interesting than I knew, Fitzroy.
Please give me their names.
Please too give me their names. It's an interesting English construction.
Please to give me their names.
Many don't have names
The
yet.
names of my officers.
Fitzroy.
The names.
Sullivan, Osborne. What are their names?
Wickham. Come on, Tom.
Wickham, Stewart. Need I go on?
You talk of sunsets, plants, generals, but never a mention of these superb officers. Even I, your captain, hardly feature at all.
I shall endeavor to repair the omission.
You are getting married.
Oh, I had almost forgot.
She goes out.
To my cousin, Emma Wedgwood.
You must be patient. It takes at least 6 months to find happiness in marriage. Perhaps she will bring you back onto the path from which you have strayed.
No doubt she will try.
I am concerned by a line in your account, which you will notice I have read with great care. You propose the Galapagos Islands were originally underwater. That is consistent with my chapter on the deluge, but then you go on to say, and you will forgive me if I have not memorized it correctly, hence, both in space and time, we seem to be brought a little nearer to that great fact, the mystery of mysteries, the first appearance of new beings on Earth.
Your word perfect, Fitzroy. Should it be a little nearer?
I've just said a little nearer.
Is it important?
You say, should it be somewhat nearer? You got to get this right.
Should it be somewhat nearer? Is this really important?
Millie comes in with a portrait.
Your wife. Very pretty in a dull sort of English way. Do you like her? I'm so excited. You two are such wonderful men.
Lawrence comes in with large jars.
And Lawrence has brought more barnacles.
I'll teach you to dissect them.
Tom, you have terrible stomach problems. And the age, yes? And Ian, for you, it's what's called being ill at ease in your skin. It's too tight, maybe, or askew.
She demonstrates on Ian's arm, stares at him for a moment. She goes out.
It does not matter whether it is a little nearer or somewhat nearer. You agreed on the ship to abandon such thoughts.
I can think what I want on dry land. I don't remember Darwin agreeing to anything.
Not if you are a gentleman.
Something happened between them in the Galapagos, but I haven't discovered it yet.
You are beginning to make a reputation for yourself, Darwin, but if you make public the thought you confess to me, you will be ostracized. And I shall feel responsible for the misery you bring to yourself. I was your captain, Darwin.
That was 5 years ago.
3, I hope I may consider myself your friend.
I've got to go and do some work. It's important.
Is it?
I want to protect you.
The bleep goes off. Ian looks for something.
Captain Fitzroy, you will have to allow me to look after myself.
Another beep goes off. Ian takes out a Tamagotchi and presses a few buttons.
My daughter's Tamagotchi. She comes every other weekend, and I look after it the rest of the time. If something happens, she'll never trust me again.
Tom and Ian both look.
I think it wants to be
He
fed.
gently hands the Tamagotchi to Tom.
Virtual baby, you get very attached.
Tom quickly hands it back.
Is it important?
The The Tamagotchi beats again.
What?
He looks at it.
It's Darwin, evolution.
That is rather important.
They talk, that's all they do, talk. Now if they had a shootout...
Tom imitates a gunfight and the Tamagotchi goes off again.
Well, what do you want now? They're easily bored.
Admit it. You'd love to make a film.
If it was good, maybe.
Even if it was bad, come on.
15 years ago, I was doing a good line of parts, and theater seemed a noble, solid, even impregnable environment. This young, hot American director came to England and suddenly decided he wanted me in his film. He took me out to breakfast and laid before me the promise of stardom, wealth, power. I was dazed. As an afterthought, he gave me the script. It was about a serial murderer. His increasing skill at not getting caught. The path of such a character in Shakespeare or Ibsen would reaffirm a moral environment.
Tamagotchi goes off.
Wait, I'm talking. Not here. Nothing. I turned it down. I was sure the film wouldn't have an audience. When it came out, it was a huge success, and for the first time I felt the icy trickle of fear, as if the ornate skills I was developing would soon be redundant. Like the 10-foot antlers of the Irish elk, which killed him when he kept getting stuck in the trees.
Absolutely. No antlers for me, you can do both.
You have to be very lucky or very stupid to survive in two environments at once.
So my stupidity could be, what's the word, a modern adaptation.
Too many film stars give bad performances. It's not that they've lost their talent, but their sense of self.
Yeah, but they're eating lots of food in the meantime.
I tell myself nobody knows ahead of time which species will survive. Those first little mammals looked unpromising.
You don't sound convinced. Look how pinched you are, like Fitzroy.
Tamagotchi goes off.
Drink? Sleep?
You see, I've been checked again.
Nappy? What?
For that film. Pish, pish.
Is that better?
It's between me and this other guy. It would start in a week's time, so I'd have to leave this.
Well, you can't.
Actually, I can.
Tamagotchi goes off. Ian shakes it.
Let me talk to Tom. It's jealous. You're not serious.
I'm hungry, Ian. I want to go where there's lots of food.
You have a contract.
Paper. Millie can't take me to court.
One doesn't do that.
You don't, I do.
Tom, you cannot do this morally.
I don't understand that word, Ian.
Ian makes the sea stomp violently.
Pish, pish, use words, Ian. Go ahead, convince me.
You're not some animal foraging for food.
That's what Darwin's saying here, isn't it?
You're part of a culture here that nurtured you, that gives you your identity and protects you from despair. You're playing a man of extreme decency, and you're taking the most superficial reading of his own words to excuse your disgusting, criminal, tawdry...
Come on, come on.
You form relationships here, to Millie, to me, to Lawrence. How many black writers do you know? He's American, okay? But he can spawn cultural descendants here. You have an obligation, and you do know what the word means, because under that camouflage of idiocy is a man of talent who, somewhere, however dimly, believes, yes. Oh my God, I don't know what to say. Give me time, please.
The Tamagotchi goes off. Ian ignores it.
Sure, if you promise not to say anything to Millie, just in case it doesn't work out.
Millie might just be able to find someone else. No, it wouldn't be any good. Damn you!
Promise?
You won't agree to anything without asking me?
It's a deal.
Tamagotchi bleeds insistently.
It's got a fever. They can die, you know.
C2. 1843, Down House, Kent. Darwin study, papers, books, jars, children's toys, Fitzroy seemingly aged, and Darwin.
You did not answer my last letter, but I have come down to Kent nonetheless. I've come to say goodbye. Being made Governor of New Zealand.
I must congratulate you.
There has been trouble between the settlers and the Maoris, and they want someone to calm the situation.
Darwin looks dubiously at Fitzroy, then distracts himself with one of his jars. Fitzroy looks around.
You seem comfortable here. Your study reminds me a little of my cabin.
Darwin is increasingly absorbed by his jar. Fitzroy eventually picks one up as well.
Barnacles. I'm pleased to see you are homesick for the beagle.
Do you remember the new Balanus anthrobalanus I found in Chile? I've decided to take on the whole genus. Let me show you
He
something.
takes out a barnacle and dissects quickly and expertly.
Here is a female, and what's this on her?
Fitzroy looks.
12 males. They have no mouth, no stomach, no thorax, no limbs, no abdomen. They consist fully of reproductive organs in an envelope.
Fascinating.
My children find it very funny.
You show this to your children?
They run in and out all the time. Annie already helps me catalog.
May I assume you are leaving those other thoughts behind you?
These barnacles will take me years.
I only ever wanted good to come to the world.
Darwin says nothing.
I am haunted by the sight of Jimmy Button. Did I fail him? I am a man of honor and integrity. How can the values I uphold have become untrue? I wanted the world to savor God through your findings. The truth cannot be as cruel as you suggested. We could not live with that truth. I failed Jimmy's tribe. Don't let me fail the world, Darwin.
My little barnacles won't do much one way or the other.
They can show order and the beauty of creation.
He grabs hold of Darwin in an uncharacteristic gesture.
Because it's there, Darwin, isn't it? It's there.
He keeps shaking Darwin.
It's there. It's there. It's there.
Millie comes on and gently disengages Ian.
Ian!
It's there, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it?
In the next scene, Darwin has written the most important book of the modern world. You have read it.
Tom shakes his head.
I ordered you to read it.
I got put off by the pigeons. My idea of hell is walking through the pigeons of Trafalgar Square.
Go to the next chapter.
I'll lose the plot. A friend is bringing me the video
Of what?
of The Origin of Species. It's only an hour and it has close-ups of important words. You know, like selection and some nice animals. I can fast forward the pigeons.
When I interviewed you, you said you were interested in evolution.
I wanted the job.
How dare you lie to me? And tell me only now when it is too late to get rid of you.
I don't have to be Darwin to act Darwin.
You have to understand every word he says.
Do you?
Of course. I read all of Darwin.
All of Darwin?
Tom, I will sit with you every evening and read to you. You will like it.
That's my body time.
When did you read all of Darwin? There's yards of him.
It's sexy.
Where?
I'm talking to Tom about evolution.
We're both interested in your evolution, aren't we, Tom?
I do not have time to tell you. Now, I will have to teach you evolution. I will start with plants. Ian, you can go.
I want to learn.
It's not important for you.
Well, where did you learn about Darwin?
In the Bulgarian theatre. We are very intelligent.
They teach evolution in drama school?
Yes,
Wow.
why not? The essence of drama is conflict, no? Struggle, evolution.
And it's taught to opera singers as well, ballet dancers. Makes them leap higher.
All right. I learned about Darwin in high school. Now, Tom,
Clearly you were a brilliant pupil.
I wanted to come to England and study science.
Wow.
Wouldn't that have been better?
A lot of intelligent people go into the theater. There's nothing wrong with that.
It can be the wrong choice.
Evolution does not explain the suicidal gesture.
Well, that's a good definition of going into the theater. It still doesn't explain you.
You've been lying to us about Moscow.
In the 1960s, Zhivkov decreed that members of the Communist Party must be pure Bulgarians. So my family, which had had a Turkish name since the Middle Ages, changed it to a Bulgarian one. They also found a monk in Rila monastery who was willing, for a fee, to become a close cousin. So I was born into a respected medical family of pure and ancient Bulgarian origin. In my last year of high school, I stumbled on the truth. And I don't know why, I really don't know why, I decided to proclaim my Turkish identity. It was just when they were confiscating the property of anyone with a Turkish name. So I was immediately expelled. My parents went into hiding. I had never been political. I did not have the dissident's art of survival. I drifted to the capital. I found a job at the theater.
As a director?
As a cleaner. When the communists fell, I took back my Bulgarian name. But it was too late to go to university. I came here and implied I was a director who had worked as a cleaner. You were so romantic about us. No one asked questions. And also I had fallen in love with this. Maybe it could explain my suicidal gesture. I took an English name.
Millie?
Amelia.
Why didn't you tell us before?
The truth is not a good survival tool. It makes you vulnerable.
And so attractive.
Ian and Millie stare at each other for a moment.
I can become good at this. I know I can become good at this. I will work and become good at this. And then at last, I will be safe.
Scene 3. The origin of species. 1857. Darwin's study. More things. Next, lots of books, portraits of several children. The men have aged.
I am not certain. Natural selection, the struggle for existence, the origin of species.
And you will say that God did not create permanent species?
I say every species multiplies at an unsustainable rate. There is not enough food, hence competition. Any individual who has an advantage over another...
Advantage given to it by God.
More like accidents. The advantage is not immediately evident, but it gives the individual a better chance of finding food. A stronger beak will crack harder berries, let us say, and the advantageous trait is inherited by the offspring, and this leads gradually to the formation of a new species, especially in isolated geographical areas like the Galapagos. If you remember...
I remember that time better than you.
The changes take place over millions of years, like the formation
And man?
of the Earth. That will be another book.
That is what everyone will want to know.
He too evolved.
This is not possible.
I believe it is the truth.
You do not have to publish your misguided beliefs.
I was sent a paper by a young man called Alfred Russel Wallace. All my ideas are there, Fitzroy.
Never heard of him. No one will listen to what he says, but you are respected in the best circles. Let this Wallace publish it.
It came to him in a 3-day fever.
Quite.
I have spent 20 years working it out. I would have to let another man...
Are you saying you are publishing out of the vilest personal ambition?
Millie comes on.
I do not believe you are desperate enough to publish this book.
I understand exactly how he feels. It would be like letting someone else have a film part, even if it's going to hurt people. Even nice Mr. Darwin wants fame. It's natural, so I was right to do it.
You've accepted. You promised.
I was afraid you'd convince me, so I acted first.
You must read the origin, or the audience will know you are stupid.
He's not stupid, just duplicitous.
Yep, my dad was like that.
Here's Lawrence. Maybe he can convince you.
Lawrence, oh God.
Lawrence comes on with pages.
You know that gun?
Tom has something to say. Find the words, Tom.
Easy. I've accepted a film part. I start next week.
That's when we start. You cannot do this. That would be immoral.
Yeah, I know, but I have.
In contemporary Britain, Millie, the moral dilemma is an over-specialized refinement that leads rapidly to extinction.
I like Darwin. I'm sorry.
Does that mean I can make you change your mind?
No, it means... Well, it doesn't mean anything. It's what you say when you feel bad. I'm used to feeling bad.
It is the end of everything.
You can start again.
You stupid boy! Who will give me the chance? I begged, I cajoled for this. Now you know, no violence, not much sex. History, ideas, not exactly popular. But we found a small and secure place, and I am so very tired, and it's such a struggle.
Millie, take it easy.
Easy? What do you know, you American? You have oil in your country, you grow wheat. I thought to myself I could thrive in the West because I have something you do not have. Intellectual energy and passion, too. But now I see it as a disadvantage, and I will go home. If I die of hunger, at least I will know why. But I cannot understand you, Tom. I come from a culture where many of us had to do terrible things. But you do not have to do this.
I think I understand him. If you are in a threatened environment, you have to be prepared to jump.
I do not understand you either. Why don't you beat him up or do something male or something? I'm an intelligent being. I do not want to go to extinct. But I do. I'm going to sleep right now.
Millie, we could start again.
The letter came yesterday. I'm an economic migrant. I have lived in the spare rooms of those who found Eastern Europe exotic. But we are becoming less fashionable, and the rooms have gotten smaller, and the effort, even to dress well. And the round at the pub, which means no lunch, no supper.
What did you say?
I will not have you feel sorry for me. Never. I am a Bulgarian. I only say this because I am going tomorrow. Today. Now. I need a phone. Why doesn't anyone have a mobile phone? What kind of actors are you?
I could still marry you. We could even have children. I've absorbed enough of this to want to promulgate my genes. Yours must be great. I mean, all that Darwin.
Ian moves quickly to Tom as if to hit him. Lawrence stops him.
Hey, man!
Ian storms out. Millie lies down and curls up.
Quiet, please.
It is quite possible.
Quiet, please. I am going extinct.
That human beings have come to the end of their evolution. Some say we are even coming to the end of our knowledge. Who knows? But Tom, we will never come to the end of our imagination. When I see a character on stage, I think, where is he going? He's emerged from the tragic. Is he a hybrid? A completely new form? And I never stop being excited by the human possibilities, the struggle for existence on this small space. I like film too. Is it a good part?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, what do you say? Let me hear.
Line up, move, keep moving.
That's it.
No, I'm in a lot of scenes, and there's a close-up of my face, and I go from frightened to excited to completely blank. My face on the whole screen. I'm interested in doing blank, you know, nothing like beyond anger.
I understand, Tom. I wasn't born into the black American middle class. It's been a long road.
Lawrence.
It's my mother who did it. She worked in one of these rigorous offices in Washington for 40 years. She took me out of school when I was 8. I was beginning to go wild. Beyond anger, as you say, and she locked me up with books, everything she could get her hands on. Here she said to me, here's your friends, Shakespeare, Milton, Moby Dick. That's the only gang you're ever going to hang out with. She put in extra hours to hire tutors. No black writers. No writing on slavery. When I told her about Caliban, she tore out The Tempest from my collected Shakespeare. I wouldn't do it to my children, but it worked, I guess.
Lawrence, I don't do guilt.
She's coming over for a couple of days with 2 of her friends from the choir. They've managed to get the church to raise the fares.
I'm sorry.
She's 70 years old. She's never been to England. So what I'm saying is, could you keep going until the end of the week, and I could at least bring her and her friends?
Millie curls up tighter. Lawrence takes out money and a piece of paper.
And she wants Millie to buy 3 hats. 3 English hats. For the occasion, she says she wants the best. And one for you. Will $500 be enough? I've got the head measurements here.
Scene 4. Sexual selection. Ian and Millie.
Tell me about your life in Bulgaria.
We were doing very well for a while. We had expanded to the gates of Constantinople and were ruled with humanity and order by a man called Samuel. One day an invading army filed into a narrow defile called Symbologos. Samuel was taken by surprise and escaped, but 15,000 of his men were taken prisoner. All of them were blinded except for one man in 100, who was left with one eye to lead the defeated army back to Samuel. When he saw this, Samuel died of grief, and Bulgaria cracked.
Was your family in that army?
Perhaps. It happened in the year 1014. Like most Bulgarians, I feel in my blood the ardent desire for conquest, combined with the terrible fear of being blind. Tell me about being English.
We think of ourselves as restrained and well-behaved, and then suddenly our natural desires and passions break through and we act on impulse.
She impulsively moves to Millie and kisses her.
And then we are surprised and shocked by our actions.
I do not allow this.
Of course, and there is someone else.
No, but I'm your director. I will accept an apology, and then I will buy the hats, and then we will work.
On what?
We will rehearse and rehearse until Tom leaves us.
Pause between them.
Yes,
I will wait
for an apology.
for the next scene.
Scene 5. The struggle for existence. Downhouse. Same as previous scene. Darwin and Fitzroy.
My book is carefully argued. Look at my notes here. Even so, Wallace and I will give a joint paper and then I will publish. The idea is out. You cannot stop it.
We strive for the good because of our faith. Destroy that and we lose our moral sense, and we are no better than animals.
We are no different from animals.
All of my life I have followed moral precepts. It does not bring me advantage. On the contrary, I would have been better liked in New Zealand if I had not wanted the good you heard.
I understand there is a book, but I have not read it.
Vilifying me for wanting to protect the Maoris, the settlers. They are like you, Darwin. They believe only in grabbing more land for themselves because they are stronger. I tried to stop it. They burned me in effigy.
I am sorry.
The noble man does not struggle for advantage. Let us remain noble.
But the truth.
The common man will misuse truth. Your ideas will be an excuse for every excess.
I wanted to give up 20 years ago when I first saw. The idea would not let go.
I only ask you not to publish.
Copernicus and Galileo did not destroy God. Indeed, the notion of God seems to recover quite easily from us men of science.
It does not matter whether the earth revolves around the sun or the sun around the earth. There is still order and harmony. This is struggle, disorder, despair, horror, chaos.
He takes out a small Bible from his pocket.
This is beauty and security. I would have thought that the death of your dear daughter would have brought you back, would have brought back your faith.
Quite the opposite.
And you want to drag us all into hell. I know what it looks like. I do not understand your theory. Even see how it could, but I will not allow it to
He
exist.
takes out a pistol.
Fitzroy, we have been here before.
I will do it this
The
time.
book is already with the publishers.
Millie and Lawrence come in.
Lawrence says we have to go back to the Galapagos.
Not the Galapagos.
Those pages I gave you, I've discovered what happened.
Ooh, how about Fitzroy is really gay and declares his love for Darwin?
Yes, but it would be repressed. You see how I adapt? Now to the Galapagos.
I feel seasick. Can't we just go on?
No. Lawrence believes this is what must have happened at that crucial moment on the ship. It explains Darwin's later antagonism towards Fitzroy. Take off your ages, the bitterness and fatigue of life. Go back to the light and heat, to Fitzroy's cabin, to the Galapagos.
Millie,
Silence! Be grateful for the chance.
The Tamagotchi goes off.
I said silence! Give it to me. I'll keep it quiet.
You know about them?
I have one. I do a timeshare.
Scene 6. Natural selection. Darwin and Fitzroy. Light. Same positions as at the end of Act 1. Lawrence and Millie watch.
dismal heaps of broken lava, hideous lizards with the faces of ancient demons.
Los Encantadas. I prefer the name Galapagos.
Fitzroy, the governor told me he can recognize which island a tortoise comes from by its markings. You know they can't swim.
I gather you didn't find much else of interest.
A few miserable weeds, finches, mockingbirds. Again, quite remarkable differences between them. I wonder, Fitzroy, may I show you something?
Darwin takes out some drawings. Fitzroy takes them.
Finches, quite well drawn. Mine are more precise.
Don't some of these remind you of birds we saw in South America?
They look like variations, yes.
Extreme variation.
Perhaps, Darwin, I must ask you...
Fitzroy, suppose, only suppose that these volcanic islands emerged from the sea, as Lyle suggests. Seeds drifted down from South America, clung to the lava. Birds followed, dropped more seeds. Suppose that in this strange, this brave new world, isolated from the rest of the continent, the islands themselves isolated from each other, suppose there began to emerge birds so different from their forebears, look at the beaks, Fitzroy, that they must, in truth, be called a new species.
New?
New.
Stop! I see where you are going.
I do not see myself. Something is at work, but I do not know what.
The devil is at work here in this cabin.
See the face of nature so bright with gladness, Fitzroy, but we do not see, we forget that the birds which are singing around us live on insects or seeds and are thus destroying life. And we forget how these birds or their nestlings or their eggs are constantly eaten by beasts of prey. It is a cruel world. Beak against beak. Food is scarce. The one with a tiny advantage, strength maybe, or better disguise, that one will survive. The misfit must perish.
Swear to me that you will abandon all such thoughts.
What if there is truth here?
Fitzroy takes the gun from the table.
I know the dark night of the soul, Darwin. I turned this on myself in my mind's darkness.
Fitzroy, it would explain all the animals which have disappeared, all those bones I have found. The struggle is fierce.
Fitzroy turns the gun on Darwin.
You are the darkness.
Don't be foolish, Fitzroy. I am only thinking.
Now you will swear to stop.
Ideas multiply in my mind. They have me in their grip. They eat my rest.
Fitzroy clicks the gun.
Darwin, I will do it.
Darwin sees Fitzroy serious and goes still.
Fitzroy, you have not been well.
I felt the brush of the devil. It was you.
He aims carefully.
You cannot shoot an unarmed man. It is dishonorable.
Men sacrifice their lives. I condemn my soul to save humanity. Swear.
Fitzroy!
Swear.
I cannot swear.
Swear.
I cannot.
On your honor, on the Bible, and before God, you will go down on your knees, Darwin, and you will swear never again to think the thoughts you have expressed here. If you cannot, I, who stand here to represent God as the captain of this ship, I will have to kill you.
Darwin hesitates. The gun is aimed. Darwin goes down on his knees.
I swear.
Pause. Lawrence comes in with Millie.
It is a modern play. The gun does not have to go off. But Fitzroy breaks his code by threatening an unarmed man. Darwin is a Victorian gentleman. He swears on the Bible. Later, he loses his favorite dog.
I had to stay alive. The idea is like a South American virus. It takes over, digs its claws, multiplies, feeds. It does anything to survive, and that's what makes Darwin do anything to survive. Yeah, great. Can we do it my way now? Could you be in love with me?
You will thank me one day.
He comes close to Darwin and takes him into a very tender embrace.
I have wanted your good. I have loved you and admired you. Will you forgive me?
I like that.
I meant it. I am asking your forgiveness.
We are coming to Fitzroy's suicide, which is seen as an act of madness.
If I could have this gun rather than a razor, it would be more tragic.
You cannot be tragic after Darwin.
Fitzroy has disappeared from history because he's on the side of the losers, but I see him as a good man who gets it wrong. That is tragic.
A new species of modern sadness, perhaps.
Yeah, because I'm the hero, I get it right, and my idea survives. Great. Pish. I get to be famous too. I'm sorry. I'm not doing this for much longer.
You are.
Yeah, for the Baptist church choir coming from America. Right, and then?
Just a chance, I thought, so I broke my code like Fitzroy. I walked around the streets. There are so many business centers, computers, the internet, email, the rapid breeding of communication.
Ian,
So I went into a computer shop.
this is not interesting right now.
I found Tom's film company on the internet and I emailed it. I said I was Tom's lover, that I was HIV positive, and that I believe Tom was too.
But that's a lie!
Three falls.
Even when I was married, I told the truth, and yet it was so easy words. I elaborated on how you'd recently been unwell.
You've just ruined my film career!
Pish. I saw a great actor when I was a child. When I met him years later, I went over to him and hugged him. "You're my father," I said to him. "You put me into this world. I never hugged my real father. I want spiritual sons. I'll do whatever I have to do to get them. I don't want another 2 years without work. I want to survive. I want Millie to survive. I want this to survive."
You've destroyed my life!
It's only a delay, Tom. And maybe someone will see you here.
Not with that email, that's it. I don't exist. No one will risk
All
the
you have to do
insurance.
is send the results of a recent test.
I've never had a test.
I would have thought,
What would you have thought, Ian? I don't want to know. It's bad enough every time I get the flu. People ring you up, you know, they wait, they don't quite ask.
Aren't you putting people at risk?
The only person who's ever at risk is myself, Lawrence.
oh my God.
My father died of a heart attack when he was 40. I had a lover who died of AIDS. My best friend was murdered. I'm a modern boy. Death lurks around the corner. I'm used to that. The only question is when and what it's going to be like.
But the film, you might have ended up on the cutting room floor.
My life is there anyway in his terms. Darwin. I would have left my face behind.
Only great films survive.
You get the video, somebody sometime would switch me on, even if only to say, he's good looking, where is he now?
I so hated what you did.
Maybe you should learn some humanity.
Ian bows his head and shrinks into himself.
People have so little attention to give these days. We're like animals fighting over a dwindling food supply. And so we do terrible things to survive. I'm sorry, Tom, but now there is even more need to go on.
No,
We have to.
I cannot accept Ian's gestures.
Ian's not asking for your admiration.
I would be colluding.
You want to survive, don't you?
I had a student in a creative writing class once. One of these arrogant, very rich East Coast kids. First day he said to me, teach me to write like Kafka. Find the man's moral caliber, he said. Assume it, and then come back to me. He dropped out, of course. I am responsible for my own integrity.
Your mother's here. Aren't you doing this for her?
If there is one thing a black American woman from Washington, D.C. knows, it's that the difference between right and wrong.
Tom has nothing else now. He has to do it.
I wouldn't allow him after what Ian's done. I'm surprised at you, Millie. Aren't you ashamed?
I've done a lot of shameful things to get here, Lawrence, but we're almost there. I lost hope once. I'm not losing it again, and I'm not going to let you destroy me now.
You'll destroy my happiness instead.
Your happiness is of no interest to any of us, Lawrence. You're a writer. You should be miserable.
Human beings have evolved a moral sense. We don't know why, but they have. Lose that, lose what makes you human and able to do this.
He gestures at the papers.
But this also needs to survive. Don't you want it to?
More than anything.
Well, there's a lot of competition out there.
Don't make me betray my moral code.
Ian's broken his. Tom never had one. What makes you think you can survive without getting your hands dirty?
It's what I hold on to, Millie. It's what makes me hold my head high. It's where my work comes from. Please don't try to break it.
I don't understand you, Lawrence. The person I felt most bothered about when I accepted the film was you. I thought you'd be desperate, beat me up even.
Do you have any idea how often a man like me has to resist that impulse? This isn't my first disappointment. I'll recover. I admire you so much.
Think of me as a failed character.
Your own Fitzroy betrays his moral precepts to try to make his view of the world survive. Darwin does the same. It's the ideas that fight it out in their own battle for survival, Lawrence. The human beings are secondary and just have to feel bad. Stop being so rigid and let's bring your characters to life.
I can't change. I'm afraid of the chaos. I'm sorry. Give me back my work.
It's not yours anymore.
Millie, I'm an American. I know my legal rights.
Lawrence, you are beginning to drive me crazy. I'm about to go completely crazy and now I'm going to start screaming. 1, 2, 3, ah!
Hey, I'm the victim over here. I've lost my future in Hollywood, glamour, wealth, even a little security. It wasn't that much to ask for, was it, Ian? Maybe it's shock, but I don't seem to care. Maybe I don't care about anything. It's your Darwin, Lawrence. He's scrambled my brain. He's turned Ian into moral pus. But I've been feeling this virus gripping me. Maybe I'll be remembered as Darwin. Maybe I'll really want to do this, or rather, maybe it wants to use me to do itself. And I don't mind. Yeah. Then, even you can say no, Lawrence. Could you? I need a walk.
I'll come with you.
Tom and Lawrence go off. Silence. Ian sits with his head in his hands, eyes closed. Millie moves very close to him.
Viking, North Upshire, South Upshire, 4 days. Did you know Fitzroy originated the shipping forecast? He was reviled at the time for believing the weather could be predicted. Now we have weather channels. Cromarty, Ford, Time, Dogger. They'll come back, won't they? They'll have to. That's all he has left, but it's not bad, is it? And then he looks fine. Fisher, German, White, Humber, Thames, Dover, White. I play the one who gets it wrong, means well, does ill always. Tragic. Portland, Plymouth, Biscay, Finisterre, Seoul, Lundy, Fastnet. Most of these names are Fitzroy's. Can I make you love him?
Millie holds out her hands.
When you confessed to the absurd gesture, you became desirable. Fitzroy was full of absurd gestures. Irish Sea, Shannon, Rockall, Malin, Hebrides, Bailey. The absurd gesture is widespread, but its evolutionary purpose remains a mystery. Fair Isle, Pharaohs, unless love. Love makes you ambitious and culture uses you to multiply. My question is, could you love me?
Millie gently takes Ian's head in her hands. Then she looks up, gestures as she sees Lawrence and Tom off stage. Then Ian follows her look.
I think it's time for you to commit suicide.
Ian and Millie leave. Scene 7, Evolution. Darwin's study as it is now in Down House. Some of it cordoned off. Darwin comes on, an old man, with a cane and beard, arranges some papers, eventually sits in his chair. Fitzroy comes on with his razor in full admiral's jacket. Millie and Lawrence come on, dressed for the outside. They look around like tourists taking in some stuffed birds. Millie looks at books and reads of their various titles.
When on board the HMS Beagle as naturalist, I was much struck with certain facts in the distribution of inhabitants of South America.
And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind.
And in the geological relations of the present to the past inhabitants of that continent.
And the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind.
These facts seem to me to throw some light on the origin of species.
Ever since Darwin.
And God saw that it was good.
That mystery of mysteries.
The blind watchmaker.
Fitzroy leaves his biblical tone and stands and speaks to the audience.
I left nothing behind.
Lawrence turns toward Fitzroy and stares at him for a moment.
In considering the origin of species, it is quite conceivable that a naturalist reflecting on the mutual affinities of organic
The
beings...
beak of the finch.
A light film of ridicule and irritation.
The making of memory.
Puff of weather.
Their geographical distribution, geological succession, and other such facts might come to the conclusion that each species had not been independently
Darwin's
created.
dangerous idea.
The dark side of his leg.
The mismeasure of man.
Blind kings, barren women, runaway children, and castaways, people, my childhood.
But if you can bring me back,
He turns towards Lawrence as if speaking to him.
But had descended like varieties from other species.
The selfish gene.
give me substance.
They became my ancestors, these loved figures carved from the crooked timber of humanity.
Tolerance.
Life's grandeur.
Lining shelves of my memory, a parallel evolution, where imagination multiplies.
From that day to the present, I have steadily pursued the same object.
Their legacy, empathy, complexity.
The origins of virtue.
If you can find me and give me room,
Lawrence turns to Fitzroy, acknowledges him.
With failed characters, we are and create.
The language instinct.
And pity.
then I become part of this too.
Reinventing Darwin.
My work is now nearly finished.
Both of us.
They all look at one another and out towards the audience.
All of us.
End. Thank you. So we'll probably take 4 minutes, allow 4 minutes for those of you who need to go, and we are happy to stay and answer any questions about this, about the conference tomorrow. A kind reminder for those who came in a little late, tomorrow we're opening the international conference on Darwin AUB in the Arab world, organized by Robert Myers and Arne, Dietrich from Psychology Department. It starts at 9 a.m. Join us for coffee, and then the opening 9:30.
At College Hall, B.
College Hall, Auditorium B.
B.
Basement.
Basement.
Please be there. It's open for everyone. And also, I would like to say you can follow the AUB Theatre Initiative page on Facebook, where you can know more about our work. The next upcoming production by the Theatre Initiative is on October 6th. It's called Munadilat. It's a speech reenactments that happened during the last century at AUB. So look at that, and we'd love to see many of you there. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.